Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to A Nooner with Susan and my friends. Today, I'm so excited. I am so absolutely excited. I can't believe we haven't done this yet. This actually is a big day, not only astrologically, because there's going to be a lunar eclipse, like at 5 in the morning, tomorrow morning. At 3 degrees Libra. So anyway, we'll talk about that later. But right now, this show, we are going to be talking all things Reiki with Jessica Miller. Hey, Jessica.
Hey.
How
Susan,
are you?
It's great to hear you. It's great to be on your show.
Oh, I'm so thankful that you agreed to appear. I know you're very, very busy. And you being my sensei in a sense, there's so many people who always ask me, especially here in Las Vegas, they're always asking me to explain Reiki and all things Reiki. And, there are so many things that we need to talk about as well. Jessica happens to be not only my teacher, but a dear friend, and is a very experienced Reiki practitioner. How many years have you been practicing Reiki?
I started in 1992, so it's been 24 years.
And how did Reiki find you?
I had been interested in metaphysical stuff for a long time, but I was never very good at it. It always seemed I had friends that were more psychic and everything else, and I wanted to be able to do things too. So I dabbled in a bunch of things. I took some Tai Chi and Qigong, and I learned a little bit about energy healing. And then I was at this event they had on the East Coast, where it was a weekend event where they were offering all these short classes. And I wandered into the Reiki class because I had never heard of Reiki. It seemed as good a reason to go spend an hour learning as any.
Of course.
And I was hooked.
Nice.
And I was hooked, so I learned Reiki. That's what I learned Reiki then and there, and I've been learning more ever since.
And where have how long? And you are also a teacher with Reiki.org.
I was a teacher with Reiki.org until December. I have now broken off to start my own Reiki Mastery Institute.
Oh, fantastic. Mazel tov. Oh, that's fabulous. So this is all news to me. Tell me, how can I find your institute, and tell us all about your institute?
So I'm on the web. My website is ReikiMastery.com. REIKI, mastery with a Y.com.
Okay.
And I mostly am teaching in San Jose and in La Crescenta near the Los Angeles area. But I'm considering coming out and doing a class in Las Vegas at some point in time.
Oh, fantastic.
So, would love to do it. So I was taking what I learned from 20 years of teaching as part of the Reiki.org International Center for Reiki Training.
Uh-huh.
But I also have all these other additional techniques and things that work really well very quickly that didn't quite fit into their program. And so I figured after 20 years it was time to branch off and do my own thing.
Wow. That's wonderful. Well, I am so excited to hear about some of these new techniques that why don't you explain to our listeners, because, you're, of course, one of our fabulous friends. If you could give us a little, what do you call it? Reiki for the uneducated?
Sure.
Thanks.
So Reiki started in Japan in the early 1900s on top of this famous mountain called Mount Kurama, where Susan and I have actually spent a fair amount of time in Japan. And this person meditated for 21 days, and he had this great healing experience and this great revelation. And that's great. But the thing that made Reiki special was that he was able to take the energy he received during his experience and transfer it to other people. So that other people, regardless of whether they are natural energy healers or not, or regardless of whether they have any background doing energy work or not, you do this process called an attunement, and they are suddenly able to do energy work too, and to feel the energy field and do healing, and it's just amazing. And so that's what I've spent 20 years doing, spent all these years doing, is trying to teach that so that people can learn to have enough energy in their hands to support them. And this key nourishes the body. It's useful for all sorts of things. It sort of nourishes the body's ability to heal itself, and it's also good for putting a positive energy into your environment and into objects and anything else that you want to do.
I call it flipping the energy.
Yeah.
I found it as a nurse. It changed my practice because, fish swim in ocean and humans swim in energy. And
exactly.
And I just decided, I was not going to be living or working in an environment that was so toxic. So, it was a great tool for anyone who is a caregiver, or anyone who's a mother, or anyone who touches anybody else, to be attuned to the universal energy. That's what I look at it as. You're it's kind of like radio waves. My life went from AM radio to FM, and then to the internet. But we won't talk about that. But that's the way it feels for me. And I'm a skeptic.
Definitely.
How I came to you is just to get the units, which is another thing we need to talk about. California.
Yes,
tell me what's going on in California.
It is a bit muddied, and I am doing research to find out more. But the California Board of Registered Nurses has recently put forth a policy that you only find out if you try to contact them directly, that they are no longer going to be giving continuing education credits for complementary or alternative practices, including Reiki. So I am looking into what the options are for getting them to finding out the reasoning behind their policy and to overturning their policy, and I'm researching a number of different venues on that.
Yeah.
It's a little too soon to give you details, but it's a breathtaking change of policy, and I really think it needs to get better publicized, and we need to do what we can to figure out what to do to stop it.
Well, you heard it here, folks. You have been given the message.
Absolutely. So if anyone has any contacts over with the California Board of Registered Nursing, please get in touch with Susan or myself.
Yes, absolutely, because this is very important. In fact, it was really the reason why I took Reiki. I mean, I knew nothing about Reiki. I knew nothing about this healing. Although in talking to some of my relatives, apparently my great-grandfather, who was a Lutheran minister, Reverend August Halme, was some sort of a Lutheran missionary massage, hands-on healer in the turn of the century. And so, I think it's kind of, it comes down with the DNA. Wouldn't that be nice?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I do find energy healing tends to run in families. And it seems like about 10 to 30% of the population has natural energy healing abilities, psychic abilities, whatever you want to call it. About 10 to 20% of the population has no natural healing, natural psychic abilities whatsoever. And everybody else in the middle is trying to figure out who's real. And what I like about the Reiki is it lifts all boats. So if somebody is like you who already had some natural talent in your family, you'll be fabulous at Reiki. Or if somebody's been doing the martial arts route, will be fabulous at Reiki. But even somebody who has no natural instincts that way, the Reiki kind of metaphysically downloads the ability into their system.
Yes, I noticed that.
Now I was wondering if we could do a demonstration.
Absolutely. I'm all for, I always took science because they had labs. I always loved experiments. Yeah. Okay, let's do it.
Same here. I was a biology major in college. I thought this was really fun. So I had a couple of thoughts for ideas. Well, first of all, this is for all your listeners, but you can do it too over there where you are.
Okay.
So I'm just intending using sort of the idea of the distance symbol to connect to all of your listeners now, but also the people who listen to this later.
Okay.
Because they also have the chance to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear the energy in the space that they're in. And so see if you notice and you can feel the clearing. There's a lot of buzz going on where you are, so just clearing all that. And so now what I'm going to do is add more energy into your space wherever you are. So first of all, notice how you feel now and kind of give it a scale of 1 to 10 and of what your stress level is, kind of what your meditation, how you're feeling meditatively.
Okay.
You could also do this really weird thing where you check gravity. put your arm out in front of you and get a sense of how high, how easy or hard it is to keep your hand up in the air. Okay, you got a sense of that? You
Yep.
can also check the temperature of what you feel. And some people will even notice a change if they count in their head from 1 to 5. So count in your head from 1 to 5 and notice how fast or slow it is. All right, got all that?
Yep.
Now I'm going to change the energy in your space.
Okay.
So we're going to call upon the energy of Reiki, and I'm sending healing into your space. Holy fire, Reiki, 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 Reiki. And this is the largest group I've ever done this for. I've never done this through the internet, but
how
I've done this a
cool.
lot. I've never done this through airwaves. I've done this through people doing healing who came to my online webinars.
Fantastic.
But
Oh,
this is
yeah,
a much
Jessica.
larger group.
Fantastic. Now, you all, to my listeners, you'll be able to see on YouTube that I'm really not making any effort to pay attention to what she's saying. Okay? I'm just letting her do her own thing. So I'm not contributing or disconnecting. I'm passive.
Okay, so, yep, you're passive, but now I want you to at least be semi-active.
Okay. I'm awake.
Try it. See if you notice any change. If you put your arm out, see if there's been any change, and how much effort it takes to leave your arm in the air.
Seems lighter.
And it might even be helpful to take your hand and physically move it from the area in front of the TV or the radio or whatever you are listening to this, and move your hand away and see if it changes, because I'm kind of focusing just on the area where you're listening. So for those people listening, they might even want to compare the area in the room where the radio or whatever else it is either behind them or the area in the next room. So you feel it lighter?
Yes.
Good. All right, and then do the counting from 1 to 5.
Seems a little easier. I seemed a little bit more well.
Yeah, most people will slow down, but about 2/3 of people will slow down. About 1/3 will speed up.
I sped
And
up.
some people, of course, don't change at all. So,
Okay.
and it tends to be consistent in how they'll relate to energy fields. So if you do other energy exercises later, and that's why I think most meditation, my theory about meditation is it has nothing to do with quieting the mind. It has to do with raising the level of ki in your brain to the point where your brain goes quiet. And it explains why it's easier to meditate in groups than it is by yourself, but it also explains why people almost fall into meditation during Reiki events.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that happens. That's the best. Those are my best experiences.
Definitely.
Having a Reiki nap.
The
Oh,
Reiki nap. Yep, absolutely.
I love how it.
And I can definitely feel the energy continuing to build everywhere. So that works walking for all your listeners.
What is it?
Yeah, so you guys may actually be getting healing stuff going on for you.
Yes.
As a result of this broadcast, which would be really fun.
That would be wonderful because we are always looking for sponsors.
There you go. Yes, if you have a major reaction to at least an improvement of your condition, feel free to call Susan and sponsor her program.
There you go. Well, this is something very interesting also to talk about with your husband Jeff, who is a very gifted astrologer.
And who wants to become wants to be featured on one of your future programs.
Oh, I'd love to. In fact, is he there right now?
Yes, he is.
Well,
would you like to say hi to Jeff?
I want to say hi to Jeff and welcome him and introduce
Here he
him
is.
to our listeners.
Hi, Susan.
Hey, Captain Jeff, how is the starship?
Life is good. Happy moon in Libra to you.
Oh, tell us about this eclipse.
What the eclipses are interesting, and I actually haven't been paying attention to this one.
Oh, okay. Well,
But
you know what? I I want to. Jeff is such a fantastic astrologer, and he comes by it again naturally. And I'd like you to have. I'm going to have him on the show next week. So if you could, Jeff, could you give us some of your how my listeners can find out or do some research before we talk next week?
I'd be delighted to. Absolutely. If you can find me on the internet at www.thecelestialseas.com. So that's how you can find me, and hopefully, as long as the website, which we're still kind of constructing at the moment, and if anybody has any problems or difficulties, by all means, feel free to call us at 626-355-8023, or get a hold of the lovely Jessica that you're talking to right now.
At Reiki Mastery.
Yes.
Or you can contact us here at Voices in Vegas with, my friends.
Yes. All of those things can happen.
Fantastic.
Otherwise, yes, we do the kind of astrology that we do is nautically oriented, so that your planets become ships, your signs become captains, and the houses become the house seas, you see, and everything floats your boat. You know what I mean?
It is such a fantastic system that Jeff has come up with. It makes sense. It takes it really grounds the celestial energies into something that you can easily understand, and it makes sense. It's almost as if it reminds me of one of these online reality games where you can create your own. I've always thought about using astrology to write, to create characters and whatnot, and research characters. Anyway, listen, Jeff.
They're all about that. So yes, we'll have some fun, and looking forward to talking with you about it next week.
Thank you. Ahoy, Jeff.
Ahoy there, and have fun. Back to the lovely Lady Jessica, my dear princess. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Okay. Hey, Jess.
Hey.
Thank you so much for the sharing, Jeff. He is just such an interesting person. The two of you are quite a lovely couple. Anyway.
All right. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Time for naps. So getting back to the experiment, I'm sorry to hijack the show there for you. We were doing.
It's the virtue of this. It's your show.
Oh, that could also be because you sent out all that positive Reiki energy.
Uh-huh.
And it increased the communication.
And actually, it was just fine because I was continuing to send some energy while Jeff was talking. And Reiki requires your presence, but not your intellect. And so I find that once you kind of get it started, it'll kind of flow. So even if you're thinking about or doing other things, once you have that energy going, it's fine.
Oh, yeah.
Doing Reiki requires the same kind of concentration as it does to, hold a mug. You can talk to other people while you're holding that mug. Now, if you fall asleep, you may drop it. But for all practical purposes, you can continue to hold on to that mug while other things are happening in your environment.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I tend to use that when I'm in traffic.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. It works great for all those kinds of things.
Or standing in line. I always have the awesome blessing of finding the slowest line or the slowest checker.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so Reiki really has helped me to channel that energy from being angry and frustrated into helping the solution or the problem in front of me to a positive resolution for all people concerned.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So there's a lot of great other techniques and stuff, too. So traditional Reiki is sort of what I call heat lamp Reiki, which basically it turns on the energy in your hands, and you just sit there and beam it at things till they get better. And so that's the heat lamps. And so I find that works really well. But then techniques like I just did to changing the space that you're in and energizing your space kind of gives you more depth and flexibility on it.
This last weekend, we had a storm coming in that didn't. And so my ski knee, my beloved right ski knee that I left at Heavenly Valley, Tahoe in 93, reminds me that it felt like rain, but it didn't. And my knee was killing me. Well, I went straight to my Reiki, Now, I also I also took, aspirin, and I took, a milk, Epsom salt bath, and I didn't just use Reiki. So it was in combination. But do you know that all it took was that one time, and my knee has been feeling great. I've been walking, I've been doing everything, but also, being aware of the fact that, I'm always consciously sending it, the thoughts of, and because I'm a nurse, I know how cartilage develops, and I know what cartilage looks like, and I know how ligaments are attached. I can almost go do a guided imagery with Reiki to what I want done to heal whatever's damaged.
Right.
I can see the torn or the tear or the bruising, and I can also visualize the capillaries or the white blood cells coming and healing the area.
And for any group of people who have the same injury, there's such wide variability in how the body responds.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really see Reiki, it's not so much making the impossible happen as shifting people around on where they are and that probability of what's going to happen as a result of whatever their issue is.
Right. I also see it as Reiki is very, in our society, we are so externally oriented. I'm ashamed to say my teenager, it's a guilty pleasure that I like watching the Kardashians and E! News. But the fact of the matter is that we're very externally oriented. And it's very hard to live. I mean, it's almost like you live a candle in the wind if you're externally oriented. But if you're centered and grounded and you're aware of your mindfulness, that's what it is.
Right.
Being mindful. It changes everything. You can, it's like turning on a light switch or turning a light switch off.
Mm-hmm.
And it's better to light the darkness than to curse. Was it? Better to light the darkness than to curse it? Oh, I don't know.
Light a candle, then curse the
Light a candle,
there
then
you
curse
go.
the darkness.
Thank
I like
you.
your version better.
Thank you. Isn't it nice to have people who are, it's like automatic Wikipedia. You don't even have to type it in. Here's a voice. Didn't that sound like it came from another realm, that voice? All right, never mind. Listen, we're going to take a break right now to hear from our sponsors, and we will be back in about 2 minutes. And in the meantime, I want everyone to take a break. Go ahead and Google Jeff Walters and Jessica Miller, and we will be back in 2 minutes.
No other girl could ever say, do you have to be...
Hey, and welcome back. We're at the noon hour, now noon 26. Right now, our guest today is Jessica Miller. Jessica wrote this book, Reiki's Birthplace. I've been to Japan with her twice. I highly recommend traveling with her. She has a lot of friends and connections. I felt so comfortable and so, it was a beautiful trip. It changed my life. And we were there. The perfect thing was that we were there at Cherry Blossom. And when we got there, it was just a wee bit chilly, but over the week, it started to get warmer and warmer. And as it got warmer and warmer, the geisha started to come out. Oh, my good Lord. If you've ever...
amazing.
Oh, they are such beautiful women. Beautiful women. Anyway, Reiki's Birthplace. This is how to go see it. I recommend you go with Jessica. She has put on tours. I don't know. Do you have another one planned anytime soon?
Probably for next spring.
Okay. Well, my husband is always helping me. Oh, that reminds me. I have to mention. So next spring. That sounds great.
Are you going to come again?
I hope so. We have to send that out to I have to send Reiki energy to it. I'm still looking for sponsors. Remember, you can sponsor Voices in Vegas with Susan and Friends anytime you want.
And I try to keep the trip personal so that it doesn't feel like you're going on the giant tour. I try to keep it so that we take public transit, so that you actually get to meet people that live in the area and do Reiki and get a sense of what it's really like to be there. So
Yes.
it's a much more personal trip than most people get when they try to sign up on a group trip.
Absolutely, absolutely. You don't have the little person carrying the flag, and you don't go castle, castle, castle. There's a lot of personal stuff, and Jessica does makes great effort to customize, what you want to do. I'll never forget our trip to the quilt shop or the fabric shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Woohoo. Boy, I've got a lot of things made from
Yeah,
that
it was
trip.
really interesting seeing what different. I really love grocery stores and fabric shops and places like that when you're in a foreign country, because they really give you a sense, that you can compare to what you're used to, and all the different fabrics and things that we got to see in their fabric shop there that were just designs we'd never see in the fabric shops here.
Absolutely.
And so whatever people's passion is, and grocery stores is something everyone can connect to too. But when you go to Japan, their tofu aisle is the size of most people here, most stores here, their cheese aisle.
Oh
And
my
the
gosh.
size- and vice versa. There's almost no dairy in Japan.
The produce section of their markets, I felt like I was going to a garden. I mean, every piece of fruit was gorgeous, and the strawberries. I mean, they really, really take great pride in what they can grow, and they are
Yeah.
prolific gardeners, and they really take care of their land. But of course, when you're stuck on an island, it kind of helps to take care of your land. Listen, Jessica, if you could hold on just a second, we have Ricky on the line. And hi, Ricky. How are you?
Hi, Susan. I'm going to give you another weekly shout out here. I'd rather light a candle than curse the darkness. Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yes. Amen.
Okay.
Okay.
Just letting you know I'm always listening.
Thank you very much. Oh, I love to hear from my listeners.
Bye,
Thank
sweetie.
you. Bye. Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Ricky. So, Jessica, getting back to your institute, I really want to hear about your institute. Jessica?
So, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
hi,
I'm
we're
here.
back. I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to figure out what would you like to hear about first? So,
Well-
mostly I find that most Reiki instruction is so focused on the how to do an hour-long spa treatment that I find that for a lot of people that's not all that useful, because if you can help people in an hour, they're like, so? But the techniques that you can do to help people in just a few minutes, I think, are really handy, and then you can incorporate them into the longer sessions. I'm also doing more online sessions with people as well. So especially if any of your listeners want to learn more about some of the techniques, or they've trained in other Reiki schools and they want to study, to do some work with me, I'd be happy to schedule them in online sessions as well.
Yeah, that sounds great. Now, how can our listeners reach you again?
The best thing to do is to send me an email to jess@reikimastery.com. Although I suspect if they contacted you, you could just forward them as well.
Okay. We will do that, and we will put that on the website. So, tell me what else is going on with Reiki these days.
Well, one of the biggest changes is we've through the International Center for Reiki Training, and I was actually in the first class where this appeared. We are shifting from using attunements to shifting towards using these things called ignitions, and so it's a much more meditative process. So most Reiki schools are. So to back up a little bit, I just gave a webinar on this the other day. To be an energy healer, you either need to be born that way, spend years practicing, or to take a Reiki class, which downloads that ability into your system.
Right.
That download, that transmission has happened over different ways over the years. So originally it was done just by spending time around the founder of Reiki, and he had this idea that just by spending time around him, people would acquire that ability. And then
by
they
osmosis.
Kind of codified it into these things called Reiju, and then they got codified further into these things called attunements, where you have people sit in a chair and you draw the Reiki symbols, 3 of which you learn in a Reiki 2 in a prescribed fashion in their hands and down their back. And there's something about that process that turns on the energy.
Uh-huh.
And it's always been a mystery. And it's one of those key mysteries of Reiki is that the attunement process. Because you can take a person who is not an energy healer, you do this process to them, and suddenly they have energy coming out of their hands. It's amazing. And part of my logical left brain still doesn't quite believe it, even though I have trained over 3,500 people.
Yeah, there's
and done this.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing how that is. So how many people have you trained over the 20 years?
So my official standings through the center is that I had 3,500. So as far as my number of students, it was over that, and that's not including people that I did, in more casual classes. Those are people who actually took certificate classes with me. So in all that time, the Reiki attunement always works, which is amazing. So, but we've changed from using the sitting in the chair method to now there's this new energy coming in called Holy Fire, and the Holy Fire has a higher frequency with it, and it's done more, it is transmitted by more of a meditation process than by sit in a chair and I'm going to work on your hands process.
Right. And it also invites, I find that the holy angel energy invites more of a person to connect with their own individual higher power.
Absolutely. And I'm very much in the honoring people, connecting into the higher power by however they connect, however makes the most sense for them.
Yes.
So through the International Center for Reiki Training, William is using more of a Christian, William Rand, who's the head of the International Center for Reiki Training, uses more of a Christian basis of thinking about it as coming through Jesus.
Uh-huh.
But I really find that because I teach to so many people who are Jewish, Buddhist, Islamic, every other spectrum. I personally have always believed that Reiki is something that comes from the divine by whatever name we call it. And so to me, that's the way I teach the Holy Fire energy.
Yes. So that's what also makes you a great teacher, because you honor all paths, which I find
absolutely.
I appreciate that, and that's really the way to get it done, in my opinion.
That's the way to get it done. So that's part of my focus is Holy Fire for everyone. Everyone has the right to receive this amazing energy and connect to it. And so this is just a new way of bringing that in. But it's one of those things that to people who have been doing Reiki for a while, it's like, what do you mean you're doing to that? Oh my God, it's this huge deal. And to people that have never heard of Reiki before, or they just know a little bit about it, it's like, what's the big deal?
Right.
So it's kind of one of those things. But that's been a major shift in the Reiki.
Yes. And it's the other thing about Reiki is that, first of all, it's not a cult. Tell me what Reiki is not, Jessica.
What do you mean? Okay, Reiki is not a pill.
It's not. It's not a cult. It's not a religion.
It's not a cult. It's not a. It's basically just a way of empowering your hands with ki.
Yes.
It's sort of a non-religious form of laying on hands.
Yes. Yes. And the attunements help activate that. And the
attunements help activate it, yeah.
The other thing that I really always love about Reiki is that even Usui Mikao, who was the modern or the discoverer, he was enlightened with this discovery, and he always said that he was not comfortable being called a master, but he always called himself a perpetual student. And, we're always learning and we're always growing and we're always learning, how to do things better.
Well, and after 24 years, I feel like I'm still a student of this.
Yes. Isn't that fun?
And I'm still learning new and interesting ways of doing this and conceptualizing it. And I find being ways to think of the issues of the human body in different ways and seeing how they respond. Correct.
Absolutely. Oh, I just think your work is fabulous, and I always love being with you and always love talking to you. Just as an aside, I also wanted to mention, asking my listeners to send some Reiki to my mother-in-law, Helen Feldman. as she heals from recent surgery, and we send our best healing energy to you and my father-in-law, Bob Feldman.
Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to intend a distance symbol to all your listeners.
Okay.
So just everyone feel in front of you and see if you'll feel like a little ball of energy.
Okay.
And now you can either think of the people Susan wants us to send to, or else you can think of other people in your own life that you'd like to send distance healing to. And then just take your hand and just sort of put your hands up towards that that ball of energy you're visualizing. And so then just visualize an energy going to be sent. This is the other thing that makes Reiki special, is it's not just working in front of you. It's one of the few things that physicists and metaphysicists agree on, is that time and space are an illusion. And so it does not matter to Reiki, it does not matter to the universe, it does not matter to God if what you are sending to is next to you in time or space or not. And so we use this one of these Reiki symbols as a bridge to connect from here to there. And so you can think of it as like a prayer, but with feedback, so that you're sending healing to the people that you're caring about, but you might even get a sense in your hands of how that healing energy is going.
Oh, yeah.
I like making these interactive,
Yeah.
And I can feel energy flowing.
Yes. It's interesting.
And there's almost like a ball in front of me. If I take my hands farther away from it and I kind of bring it towards it, it can almost like feel the change in vibration. And if you're not sure if it's just a change in your hand position, then turn sideways and do it, and you won't feel it.
Turn the head sideways?
Well, turn it sideways in your chair so you're not facing the same spot again as where the ball of energy was.
Oh. Well, yeah.
There we go. Excellent. So so distance healing is being sent to your family and to everyone else's concerns. Excellent.
Good. We'll have to see what happens.
We'll have to see what happens. Please contact Susan's show. I'm really curious to know what some of the outcomes for you people are.
Yeah,
your listeners are from some of these experiments.
That's what another fun thing about Reiki is that I love experimenting with it. In fact, that's how when I went to take the Reiki class, I really wasn't, I knew nothing about Reiki. I just wanted the units. And I came back to the hospital and I'm, just kind of bored. And so I'm playing with the energy, and it's amazing how you can flip, bad energy or bad situations by intention and by controlling or being aware of being mindful of yourself and your thoughts. And Reiki really helps to focus that energy and also to channel it, I mean, how many times do people wish for things or worry about things or give a lot of energy towards things that they don't want to happen rather than things that they do want to happen?
That's very true. And I find that Reiki can help with worry and all those other things as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure. At least it kind of gives you an excuse to... I also like to say that, it also helps me to remove any personal responsibility for anything that happens. It's like, honestly, I really wanted everything to turn out good. What? It didn't work? I'm sorry. That's a joke. Anyway... what else did I want to talk about? The Reiki. So how often are you in the Bay Area, and how often are you teaching in it's really North Los Angeles. So it's sort of like La Crescenta is like Glendale, Pasadena.
Exactly. It's actually it's a neighborhood of Glendale. So it's sort of it's near Pasadena.
Yes. A beautiful area.
And unlike the west side of LA, you can actually park.
Yes. And also it's, what I love about it, La Crescenta, is it's elevated in the mountains. So it kind of gives you that feeling of even being, on Karama, which I always, I love backpacking and hiking because it's a great way of grounding yourself and, centering your energy. When I get famished or flustered, it's a great way to do it. So, Yeah. So we had a great time when we were in Japan. I'm remembering being up on Mount Kurama and getting attunements with everybody, and it's just a fantastic experience. And I'm looking forward to going back again.
And just spending time in sacred places, I think is really powerful. And it doesn't have to always be the places other people say are powerful, but just to notice, where do you go where you feel more yourself? Where do you go where you feel more energized, and to make excuses in your life to spend time in those. And you got so many great areas right around Vegas and in Nevada in general that have really wonderful energy.
Where in Las Vegas do you feel, could you give our listeners some ideas about where you feel?
I went to the desert wetlands because I thought I just had to go see what it was, because I love the name. But I thought there were some really good areas in that desert wetlands area.
Okay.
Also, you have was it the Valley of Fire?
Yes.
And then that, I thought, had some really great energy. And then there's the place that you drive to the west of town. I forgot the name of it.
Red Rock.
Yeah, the Red Rock area I thought was terrific. And I also enjoy some of the casino areas, too. I really like the Bellagio. And the conservatory at the Bellagio, I think, is one of the most amazing spots I've been.
Yeah.
And to just take in all that natural key.
Yes. You have an interesting theory about Las Vegas and why people come here, and you feel that this is a very energetic center. Yes. Tell us about
gambling. Gambling, I think, is an invocation to the goddess of good fortune. Because especially if you're doing like the slot machine gambling, your people are almost, what they're really saying is, look, I know it's against the odds, but please, fortune, bless me. Which is why if they suddenly get $2 more worth of nickels more than they had a moment ago, they don't just feel like, oh boy, I have $2 worth more of nickels. They feel blessed. They feel like the universe has rewarded them, is shining upon them. And the psychology of that, I think, is really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
And so if you're ever working with people who have issues with addiction and gambling, one way to work with it is to try and find out ways they can feel blessed by the universe in other ways in their lives.
Well, I think it would pay maybe to have a little institute right across the street from the Red Rock Casino.
Okay.
We could get a lot of business from those people who leave. Oh, well, anyway, so tell us about how's your museum coming along?
I've been kind of putting that on hold right now while I'm focusing on my institute.
Uh-huh.
So I've gone from being part of the center to now being independent. So I'm in the process of rewriting my materials, my books. My handouts have been getting thicker and thicker over the years, and I think it's time to finally turn that into a new book project. I'm also working on a book of my Reiki techniques, and so that's so those and trying to build my class sizes has kind of taken over from it. But what she's referring to is one of the things I'd like to do someday. We all have our things that we're going to do when our ship comes in. But one of the things I think would be really intriguing, and perhaps some of your listeners might be interested in getting involved in this, is to create a museum, create a mind, body, spirit exploratorium. People have built museums for all kinds of crazy stuff, and so to have something where people can have experiments that are vivid, that explain about chakras and explain about energy and explain why massage is a good idea and how chiropractic works, but also explains the way the brain works and how biofeedback works, and all these kind of physical type things. The properties of crystals. I think it'd be really interesting to have something where you had different crystals and people could and ways for people to experience these things. But by doing it in a museum environment, I think you get an entirely different clientele. And I think the way to make it work in Las Vegas would also be to have a section that talked about luck and probability and ways of affecting luck and probability. And if you can do something on luck, I think all of Vegas will come.
Well, I totally agree because people go to Madame Tussauds, they go to Ripley's Believe It or Not, but this is very interactive, and also it shows people that we do have energy fields. And like I said,
Absolutely.
fish swim in water and we swim in energy. I don't think a fish is aware of the water. It's aware when it's not in the water. And we're aware when, we're unaware of the air or the energy. In fact, today's a very windy day. And while I was driving here, I was thinking that, that's what energy means to me. You can't see it, but you can see how it affects other things, which proves that
Well said.
yeah. So anyway, interesting, you said people build museums for any reason. Well, the other day I was watching a very interesting show on PBS, Globetrekkers. And it was about a woman in India. And she went to go see the Museum of Toilets. Yes, I said that right. Museum of Toilets.
Wow.
And where it comes from is Gandhi. And Gandhi was famous for saying the only way that we are all going to become equals in this world is if we all take our turn cleaning the toilet. And so it is. I've got to go there now because they have all different kinds of toilets. And I'll never forget the toilets in Japan because we went, up on the mountain, there's the squatting toilets, which are interesting. And but then in our hotel room, because we stay in very nice hotels and at very reasonable prices and also local. So you're not staying at like an American hotel. That's what I like. Also staying like a local. Anyway, my room was beautiful, by the way. Oh, absolutely gorgeous. It had like a tea room sitting area. I loved it. But in any case, what was I going to say about the hotels and staying? Oh, I forgot. What was I talking about?
The toilet. The toilet.
Oh, the
Your
toilets. My toilet was fantastic. It practically spoke to me. I mean, it just did all kinds of stuff. I mean, it sang, it deodorized. I mean, it was really wild. Give it to the Japanese. Oh, and you know what? Another thing is we have to include next time in the trip to go to an electronics stores because the electronics that they sell in Japan are not like the ones they sell here. Anyway, Jessica, I'm sorry that this is the end of the show. My God, I can't believe how an hour has gone by. And I want to thank you again for, coming and talking to us. And I hope that all that energy, one thing I like about Distant Energy is that I always send it with the intention of permeating all time and space, those that we know of and those are yet to be known. So I like to get into every little space of this universe. Hey, Jessica.
Another great aspect on Reiki on that as well is that it always works for the highest good, whether it's what we know is the highest good or not.
Yes, absolutely. Amen.
You can always send good intention.
All right, Jessica. Well, it was great talking to you, and I look forward to talking to Jeff next week. And
Excellent.
a shout out to our listeners that next week we're going to have Jeff Walters of Astral
Captain Starwise, yes.
Captain Starwise.
Yo ho ho! Our sails unfurled.
And
See you soon.
And I also wanted to mention that I have a retraction. Last week I gave out the wrong information. The place that I really love doing business that I went and saw was LasVegasBusinessCenters.com. And they have the best executive suites that I've ever seen. The facilities are clean and bright. You can reach them at 702-948-5000. Or again, they're on the web at www.lasvegasbusinesscenters.com. Ask for Mike or Jen. They also have lots of industrial properties for you to look at. And all of these can be found at their website at www.lasvegasbusinesscenters.com. And what else can I say? I want to just say, go out tomorrow morning, set your alarm for like 4:30 in the morning, go out and take a look at the moon and see if you can see the eclipse. And other than that, I want to wish you all the best. Love, love,
Wishing
love.
all the best to all your people. Yep.
Thank you, everybody, through all time, space. Bye-bye.